haven't been here before, in this podcast we interview founders, marketing directors and CMOs of brands whose marketing work is fascinating to understand more about just what they're doing. In today's episode, I interviewed Ben Carter, who is CMO of Carwow. Before I dig into the episode itself, I'm going to quickly tell you about me for some context. I'm Lottie Unwin. I'm founder of 3 businesses that are all connected by my kind of obsessive, deep passion for startup marketing. Brand Hackers is fractional marketing teams. Up Talent is recruitment and talent planning. And Upworld is a community and curated learning for anyone who's in startup marketing or is a voyeur into this world. So in this conversation with Ben, we really got into what life in a Series E business is really like. I didn't know that Series E was a thing. I found this conversation incredibly humbling. I thought I knew a lot about businesses of all sizes and I understood what a scale-up was like, but this was a level of scale-up that was way beyond my experience. In particular, we talked about the incredible importance of content in their business. So 60% of Carwow's traffic is free and comes from the eyeballs generated by their content machine. 25% of UK men have heard of Matt Watson, their chief content officer, who is a YouTube celebrity. And so genuinely by building an in-house celebrity, they have been able to turn on the most incredible cost-efficient acquisition strategy. So we talked about the impact of AI on jobs and how he sees that and how it's changing the search engine. And we talked a lot about what you would do if you wanted to build content and a moat from your content, just like Carwow have done.
So this is not the business I thought it was.
No, it's quite different. This is what I mean.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
The business has transformed. Yeah.
So can you I thought I'd done my homework. I have not. Can you...
You know it's Carwow, right?
Yeah. Who are you?
Exactly.
Why are you here? Can you talk me through what Carwow is and how it works?
Yeah.
And then it sounds like you've been on this slightly mad 3-year journey. I'd love to get a bit of a backstory.
So our vision is to be the starting point for every car change in the UK, Germany and Spain.
Okay.
What does that mean? So you have a car.
Yeah.
8.7 million people change their car every year. So on Carwow, you can read our content. You can watch our YouTube channel, which has 10 million subscribers, 4th biggest motoring YouTube channel in the world. 1.6 billion views last year, which is more than some TV channels have on YouTube. So you can read the content to get an idea of the car you might want to buy. You can come onto the platform, you can value your current car, and you can actually go on and sell your car to dealers. So we run an online daily auction where dealers bid for your car. And then you can also buy your next car. So you can buy a new car, a used car, or a lease car. Also, you can lease a car. And all of that you can do informed by the content, because basically a car changing journey is not linear. So you might start you might have a car, might be on finance, and obviously finance, 80% of cars that are sold in the UK are sold on finance. Finance deals tend to be 3 years.
Okay.
So about 6 months before your finance deal expires, you go, I wonder how much my car is worth. You come into Carwow and you can value your car. That to us is the first signal that you're starting to be in the market for a car change. You might at that point think, I'm really interested in buying an Audi A3. But actually what you find is often the car that you think you're going to buy is very different to the car you end up buying. And what Carwow does through all of the content and the information we give you, whether it's on the YouTube channel or our car reviews, then basically we help you make that choice. Matt Watson, who's the face of our YouTube channel, says there's very few cars now that are bad to drive. It's actually not what the car drives like anymore. It's basically what you need the car for or the technology you want in the car.
Okay.
So obviously, Lossie, you're about to have a baby. You might be thinking, actually, I need a car where I can put a buggy in, right?
Yeah.
You might have a tiny car at the moment, and what we see is when people go through life-changing moments, having a baby, they tend to change their car. So basically using our content, using all of our information, you can come on and you can research the cars you want. You start to build these cars. And then we start to, on behalf of dealers, connect you to the dealers. So we say, right, you're looking at X make. Actually, this dealer in London has this great deal.
Okay.
So historically, it used to be about you would come onto Carwow and you would find the best price for a car. It's now actually, rather than being a price comparison platform, it's a car comparison platform. So yes, price is one factor, but it's also very much linked to what do you want the car for? What do you want in the car? And crucially, why are you changing your car at this point? And then, as I said, you can also sell your car as well.
So that's the customer experience.
Yeah.
And then underneath that,
Yeah.
you've got a media business and a data business.
Yeah, so retail media, right? So obviously, marketing hat on now. Retail media is the new frontier. So everything you do on Carwow is first-party database. So what does that mean? So when you come on and you value your car, you log in. So we start to build up a profile of you and what you're thinking about in terms of your car changing journey. Through our retail media business, we work with car manufacturers and we offer them the opportunity to target those consumers, those in-market consumers. So that could either be just through sort of more linear online advertising, or it could be through what we call conquest advertising. So for example, I said before, say you're in the market for an Audi A3. We would go to Audi, but we would also go to competing manufacturers and say, would you like to target people who are in the market for an Audi A3? So it gives us the ability to say to the car manufacturer, you can target these consumers using these conquest placements. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is that we've also created a proposition now where you can also do that outside of Carwow. So the first iteration of that is we've partnered with ITV to launch Auto Match. So Auto Match is basically taking that data from Carwow and then matching it onto ITVX, which is obviously their on-demand platform. So say again, you've built an Audi A3 on the platform, you might find when you're watching a program on ITVX that an Audi advert appears. That's because basically Audi have decided to target you utilising that product. Audi actually aren't using that product at the moment. We have 3 car manufacturers using it at the moment, but that's an example of how it works. The other area we also offer our media propositions is around CRM. So obviously targeted emails, targeting people who are in market depending on sort of what signals they're showing on the platform. And then also sponsorships on our YouTube channel as well. We do sponsorships around, for example, our drag races, as well as obviously doing pre-roll advertising with Google like any YouTube channel.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Should small businesses be thinking about data like you are?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the death of the cookie is talked about for a very long time. Google have just changed their approach again. Historically, they were going to kill the cookie in Chrome. They're now creating sort of this sort of management center, if you like, for consumers to be able to better manage your preferences. I think relying on cookies is a really, really naive thing to do as a marketeer. I think we at Carwow are incredibly lucky because we get all of those signals and because everything is first-party data-based. That first-party data is gold dust. But I think historically, people have thought retail media is sort of supermarkets or e-commerce platforms. Retail media should be anyone who's collecting data, and crucially, the way they're using that data as a value exchange for the consumer. Then they should be thinking about taking advantage of retail media. I think the really interesting thing about retail media is it has to be a value exchange, right? Because if you go back to why we do it on Carwow, of course the car manufacturer benefits because they're able to target in-market consumers, but also the consumer benefits because they're getting relevant messaging. Where it fails is if we're just blanket targeting the consumer, but by doing it, utilising the signals they're giving us, that means we're doing it in a much more sophisticated way, which means not only can we charge a competitive CPM to the manufacturer, but also we're going to improve the chances of that consumer finding the car they want on Carwow.
I don't think anyone's got their head around that in the world I operate in. I'm like, mind blown. Okay. And how has it been over the last 3 years?
I mean, it's like building a rocket ship. Carwow is a 14, 15-year-old Series E.
I'd never heard of a Series E until you just said it to me.
Well, there we go.
I thought they sort of, we got
to Series D and then
we're
sort of done.
Yeah. Just
it's like everyone got tired and there was a different solution.
Well, this is the thing, right?
Does it keep going?
I mean, I think I have heard of a couple of companies who've got Series F. I've never heard of north of F. Okay. I think
that really is the end.
Yeah, exactly. But Carwow was set up by two friends, James Hyde and David Santoro. Very, very smart people. David's still our CTO. James stepped aside, but is still as CEO nearly 2 years ago now, but still heavily involved. But they had a vision of basically helping people find car reviews online. And what they found was, as they put more car reviews online, they would get people contacting them and going, "Oh my God, I love the review of that VW Golf. Can you help me find a cheap VW Golf?" So obviously instantly there's a lead generation affiliate model there, right? Mm-hmm. So what they did was they partnered with dealers and they connected the two, classic marketplace model. James then realised actually a great way of driving traffic to this platform could be by using content, and specifically YouTube. So he went and found a motoring journalist called Matt Watson, who was at a car magazine called Auto Express. Matt is now the face of our brand. Yep. 25% of the male population know who Matt is. Mm-hmm. I can testify to that. When I walk down the road, it's like walking with some sort of celebrity, as much as I don't want to inflate his ego, but that's the reality.
Well, he has the brand awareness of a serious.
Exactly. And the great thing about Matt is it's like having a friend down the pub who you can just ask questions of when you're buying a car. Buying a car is not an easy thing to do. It's quite hassleful. It's quite emotional. It should be exciting. But if you've got that rational voice, which is Matt, then you're able to make a much more informed decision. So anyway, James brought Matt in. They created the YouTube channel and they had this great business going where they were effectively growing this platform for new car only. Come COVID times, obviously, a lot of businesses either thrived in COVID or a lot of businesses caught a cold. We really caught a cold. And the reason we caught a cold was we were so reliant on the new car market. Not sure if you remember, but post-COVID, there was a massive chip shortage crisis, which meant you had to wait on average 12 to 18 months for your brand new car. Problem. The other problem is that actually there's only a very, very small amount of people in this country who want to buy a brand new car. They tend to be quite old, quite middle class, and wealthy. So as a mass market proposition, Carwow had a bit of a problem because it basically had a challenge of where it had a very nice business. It was disrupting and it was enabling dealers to connect with consumers for new car, but it didn't really have a platform to grow outside of that sort of market. So enter my CEO, John McManus, who used to be the CMO of Farfetch. He came in and he recommended that we need to sort of broaden this business out. We need to de-risk just being focused on new car. We bought a platform called Whizzle, which was a very small car selling platform, and we plugged it into the Carwow traffic. And what that means now is on Carwow, when you come onto Carwow, as I said before, not only can you find your next car, but you can also now sell your car. So effectively, that gave us the ability to run daily online auctions where dealers bid for your car. Why is that important? Well, it's important because if you sell your car online, you're likely to get more money than you would in part exchange. On average, on Carwow, you get £1,000 more than you would if you part exchanged. And also, for dealers, it gives them a limitless amount of supply, which is what they want. They want cars on their forecourt. So that was a big shift for Carwow. And that business, part of the business, is growing like an absolute train.
And that was a very intentional acquisition. To broaden.
And it was a really good example of M&A where it works, because obviously M&A doesn't always work.
That's kind of what I was like. I think it's worth unpicking that, because you've made that story sound so like fortuitous. You know, like Whizzle turned up. We bought Whizzle. It went really well. But it's like, no, the strategy behind that.
I think yes, absolutely. The strategy was intentional. I think even in our wildest dreams, in terms of how quickly we were able to monetize that traffic, it certainly surprised us. It's funny me talking about it because I turned up sort of 6 months after they bought the business, and just as it was starting to, we were starting to scale. But that was the first big transformation. The second big transformation was to develop the retail media business we talked about before. So again, as a marketplace, when you're sitting there with huge amounts of consumers and lots of data, there's a massive opportunity there to monetize that data more, and again to create an additional revenue stream, which not only de-risks the business, but also because that revenue stream is very, very profitable, it enables you to invest in the business as well.
Yeah.
And obviously, what we've seen is because of effectively the sort of the depreciation, if you like, of cookie and cookie targeting and remarketing, first-party data has really become gold dust for marketeers. And so because Carwow has all this traffic, and because a lot of the experience on Carwow, when you actually start to build cars or value your car, is all logged in base, we're collecting that first-party data all the time. So to combine manufacturers with that first-party data is a really compelling proposition. And to be honest, is really defensible as well, because basically, because of that unique blend of content plus transaction that we offer.
Yeah. So you came in, it was flying, and everyone was a bit awestruck that the strategy was going so well.
I came in at a really interesting point. So I came in 2022. Bit of context as to my sort of my role before that. So I was at a very big retailer called Dunelm.
Yes.
So Dunelm brought me in as their group CMO, and I was tasked with basically. So Dunelm had thrived through COVID. Dunelm is effectively a multi-purpose retailer, traditionally known in the Midlands and the North.
Yeah.
In COVID, loads of people in the South discovered Dunelm through Google Shopping. And suddenly Dunelm's online business went from single figures percentage of their total business to 25-30%. But they didn't really have the infrastructure behind it, and they also didn't really have a marketing engine behind it. They were doing a lot of sort of performance marketing, but no real brand marketing, and they also weren't really optimizing their performance. So they brought me in, and I thought it was all going great. And then 6 months after having joined, and despite getting very positive feedback and building a new brand platform all around value. It was obviously the height of the cost of living crisis, so energy prices were rocketing. Dunelm sells amazing things that keep you warm, so we came up with this great slogan: "Heat the human, not the home." And so and we actually took this campaign, this value-focused campaign, into the shops themselves. The first time Dunelm had done that, so we had a consistent campaign running in shops and online. Might sound not very radical. It was quite radical for them. Anyway, 6 months after I joined, they turned around to me and said, "Thank you for the strategy. Thank you for the new organisation you've put in place, but your role no longer exists." And that was a massive challenge for me. It really not only hurt my ego, because I've been in a situation way back when I was in a business, it went into administration and we all lost our jobs. When it's just you losing your jobs as a financial decision, it coincided with the Ukraine war starting. So it was a financial decision. It was it was very personal. And not least because they asked me to stay for 3 months to deliver 3 new projects. So
That's brutal.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Did you get to the bottom of what had happened?
Not really, no. No, probably not one for the podcast, but I had some interesting feedback after I left about sort of motivations behind it. But the main thing that really affected me about it was that I had only had consistently good feedback. So that was quite a personal challenge.
Yeah, because you can wrap it as a redundancy process, and of course it is a genuine redundancy process. They're making the role redundant.
Yeah.
However, if you're the only role that's being made redundant, it's very hard not to see that through the lens of your
absolutely
impact.
Have to go in every day for 3 months, right, and smile through it. And
did you? Yeah. They made it worth your while to.
Yeah, I mean, it was. We came to an agreement.
Yeah.
But I think it was a very, very odd feeling for me, running a team, knowing that I was on a countdown to leaving. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But anyway, so that's important context. I've been through quite a challenging situation. So when Carwow came calling, I knew of Carwow. I actually met James a few years previously when I was at Just Eat as UK marketing director. Not to talk about being not to talk about a role, but more to talk about. He had a bit of a reputation of going through CMOs, and he wanted to sort of understand what the role of the CMO should look like and basically what Carwow needed. And so I just met him for a coffee, and obviously meet a lot of founders for coffees and sort of swap various bits of hopefully helpful marketing advice. So I knew of Carwow, and so when the headhunter said to me, "Oh, Carwow looking for a CMO," I was interested. I met James and obviously reconnected and thought, there's definitely something here. And then I met JV, or John McManus, our now CEO, and I was just blown away because his energy, his drive, his enthusiasm, and the fact that he had been there and done it as a CMO at Farfetch. And the sort of first thing he said is, I'm sort of done as a CMO, so I'm not looking to tell you how to do your job.
Which is a big tick.
Big tick. So obviously working under a frustrated marketeer could be very, very painful. But when I realised I could get on with him, and I saw a lot of traits in him as I've seen in other bosses, and I've been incredibly fortunate in my career to have some truly amazing bosses, I was like, actually, this business is really interesting. I'm not a petrol head. For me, cars are a utility. In fact, the most recent, the last but one car I bought was an amazing Jaguar F-Pace, but I bought it purely for its look. And it was awful. Reliability was dreadful. The turbo fell out of the engine, and it was not a great experience. But I loved the look of it, and that sort of tells you everything you need to know about me and cars. Is that I'm really not a petrol head.
You're there for the brand.
There for the brand, and they're to be honest, there for the business model of taking this content, this huge amount of engagement, and monetizing that engagement. That's what drives me. I love businesses that have a positive purpose, that are disrupting positively. Way back when, the reason I went to Just Eat is that no one had ordered food on an app in 2015, 2016. We had 15% of people in the UK had. I think it's now north of 70%. And so the opportunity to disrupt things positively, both to help out an industry, in this case the car industry, but also the consumer, is something that really motivates and drives me. So that's how I rocked up at Carwow. And basically from that point on, October 22 till the end of last year, the business has absolutely flown. So the last 2 years, we've recorded north of 40% year-on-year growth. We've reduced our losses from 15 million to 4 million. And we have a path to profitability. And then the real highlight was last year, we decided to do our Series E, the thing you've never heard of.
This mystical beast.
And the thing that was amazing for me personally, with JV, the CEO, myself and our director of FP&A and our strategy team, I led that fundraising with them.
Wow.
And I've done M&A before, but I've never ever done any fundraising. So we met 60 growth investors from January to March, and we got a term sheet from Bessemer, and Bessemer invested in us alongside some of our existings as well last June. So we raised $52 million, and adding a VC like Bessemer, which is obviously a very a classic US VC with a massively amazing pedigree, early stage investors in Shopify and LinkedIn, to get them to join our cap table alongside Boulder Turn, Axel, Episode 1, Vitruvian. I mean, it was a dream come true. And it's been really, really sort of now exciting about how we've leveraged that investment and then where we take the business now going forward.
What has having investors like that meant for the business? I think lots of people listening to this will have heard stories of like the power of getting money from the right place and what that can do. But I'd be really interested to hear like the granularity of what that's actually changed.
So again, if you go back to Carwow being a 13, 14-year-old Series E, you could argue that many of those investors have probably sort of gone, oh my God, we just wanted to get our money back a long time ago. The amazing thing from our board and how sort of engaged and supportive they are is it feels like that they really are in love with the business and they're really excited about the potential of the business. So they're very supportive. They're very focused. Alex Ferrara, who is the Bessemer VC partner, he came to our all-company New Year kickoff in London in January and gave a really amazing talk about why they invested in Carwow, what interested them, the type of business they look for, where they see Carwow going. And I think for the company, obviously for me, sitting on the exec, I get exposure to the board quite a few times through the year, not as much obviously as our CEO, but the rest of the company don't. And I think connecting the board with the rest of the company and showing the rest of the company that the board really have belief in them and belief in this business is incredibly motivating and incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, that's incredible. And what like show from them by turning up?
No, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if you think of the amount of investments they have, and that's not just unique for Bessemer. Like the obviously we hold board meetings in the office sort of 4 to 6 times a year. Often the board will sort of do walk arounds, speak to people. I meet our chair several times a year. I meet our independent non-exec several times a year. So they really are they're engaged, but not just engaged. They know what's going on in the business. They know how the business is performing. But as importantly, they also know where they want to take the business and what that and how we can get there.
You described yourself to me earlier as a brand and growth marketer and said, like, we know that this is a rare specimen.
Yeah, a unicorn, I think.
Yeah. Tell me a bit more about that and I guess how your marketing skills have been challenged at Carwow.
Yeah, I guess. A lot of marketeers started off in a traditional FMCG, or they did a CIM, or they did an MBA. Any other acronyms? Anyway, I started off as a journalist, and I'd always dreamt of being a journalist. I worked for several years on a few trade magazines. I did a lot of freelancing work for the Nationals. My whole career has been sort of serendipitously linked with the internet. So 1999, the rise of the internet, I graduated and I went to a magazine that was basically covering the internet. It's called New Media Age. It no longer exists. But I went in as editorial assistant and rose up to news editor. But throughout my career, the internet has been this ever-presence, which are why now I think the age of AI is just so seismic. But we'll come on to that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But fundamentally, I've always sort of had this sort of thirst for information and learning and curiosity. And so with the rise of the internet and covering it as a journalist, I was meeting so many people who were setting up businesses, the dot-com bubble. I was fully immersed in this whole thing, and actually, I probably knew more about the internet than some of them. And so, after several years in journalism and realizing I wasn't going to get my big break on the Nationals, and I had this career sort of ahead of me working on trade magazines, which, no disrespect to anyone who does that, it just didn't appeal to me long term. I decided to set up my own digital consultancy. And that then took me into the world of marketing. So I went in initially, I did everything from content strategies to blogging strategies. This was in the days of MySpace and things like that. I remember my first brief as a consultant was the marketing director of British Gas at the time saying to me, when I Google British Gas, all I get is customer complaints. How do I get rid of those? I was like, well, you can't get rid of them, but what we can do is we can create amazing content about British Gas and the quality of the engineers and the brand story, and basically as long as enough people engage with that, then that will rise to the top of the algorithm. So that was, I mean, it sounds hilarious talking about it now because that's still obviously...
Oh, I still get that question. Genuine, like not infrequently. I get it, like, how do I drown out my bad reviews, or how do I shut my customers up? And so often I'm like, why don't you fix your product?
Go to the root cause, right?
It's like, what do you mean, how do I shut up my customers?
That's crazy.
Yeah. I get all the whiles that and like make me go viral on TikTok again.
Oh, of course.
But
can you do a viral, please? So basically, my consultancy started doing that, and I actually grew it to sort of a 6-figure consultancy. But the problem was I was operating literally out my back room. I was in my mid-20s. My mates were all working in various interesting jobs, having fun. Yeah. And I was just working, and I was like, what?
Hard graft, isn't it?
Hard graft.
Yeah.
And I've always had a bit of entrepreneurial sort of spirit in me, but it was just, I was like, I need to go into a company. And so one of my clients was a broadcaster called Setanta Sports, who way back when, won the Premier League rights, and basically effectively were backed by Goldman, Doughty Hanson, huge, massive PE firms. And they were trying to challenge Sky, and they brought me in as their first head of online marketing. So I was very performance focused, all around driving subscriptions. I could write a book about that place. That was the company that actually ended up going into administration. And I was the last employee to leave, selling the database to ESPN for £1, having had Disney bid allegedly £1 billion for it 8 months earlier that the founders had turned down. Anyway, that's that story. So I started in performance, and then I went to Betfair, and I went in as head of online marketing, then became global head of online marketing, launched their mobile betting app, and then effectively was director of digital until I left sort of after 4 or 5 years. But that was where I started to evolve from being purely performance to actually thinking around the role of digital brand, digital partnerships, and how to activate sort of brand digitally. And I think my whole thesis in marketing, and this is where right from day one, I was like, the internet is just another channel. People were looking at it as like some sort of foreign object. And I was like, ultimately, consumers will still interact with the internet like they do with any other channel. And so I think where brands were getting it wrong is that they were looking at it in such an abstract way. Whereas for me, it's always been around marketing is around creating physical or virtual signposts to your brand.
Yeah.
And linking that mental availability that Byron Sharp always talks about to the physical availability. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about an email, whether you're talking about a digital ad, whether you're talking about a TV sponsorship, whether you're talking about radio. It's all one thing. I appreciate there's different measurement layers and there's no single source of truth in terms of how you understand the effectiveness. Totally get that.
But that makes it all the more the same as anything else.
Exactly.
Not different.
Yeah, and
it's just that we're trying to pretend that there are those things.
And so then when I left Betfair and I went to not the high street and I made my first TV ad and my first radio ad and was doing catalogues for DM, and then went to Just Eat, where I then made huge amounts of TV ads and sponsored the X Factor, as well as still running all the digital activity. It's never been an either or for me, because actually when businesses invest in their brand, it makes their performance work better.
Yeah.
And when businesses don't invest in their brand, you reach performance plateau. And Carwow, we're fortunate. We don't need to invest heavily above the line. I'm sure my media agency is listening. They hear this from me regularly. But because we have this huge content footprint, 60% of our traffic comes for free.
Yeah.
There's not many businesses who have that. Now, yes, we do take advantage when there are distressed media opportunities to just top up the brand. But there are businesses in our category who have to literally spend millions of pounds every month to drive listings on their platform.
Yeah.
We don't. And to be honest, if we had to, our unit economics would not sustain it.
No.
Because we're a low frequency, low value transaction. By that, I don't mean it's low value to buy a car. Of course it's not. But where we make our money, i.e. the lead from the dealer or the fee from the dealer when they buy a car or the media inventory, it's low value.
Yeah.
And so actually having that content safety blanket is huge for us. And it's a massive, massive driver for our business. It's also massively defensible. Because with 10 million subscribers on YouTube, you can't build that overnight. People often say, what happens if Matt walks away? Matt has built this amazing channel, but it's not just Matt, it's Carwow. Matt won't walk away. We always say we cut his arm, he bleeds blue. He's so passionate. But ultimately, you can't build a 10 million YouTube channel overnight. So it isn't a threat. And similarly, our content, the reason that we invest heavily in our content, we have team of 40-odd journalists writing this content. We also bought Auto Express and Evo last year. And these are very, very heritage established car brands. Auto Express is the biggest weekly car news magazine and website. Evo is a monthly high-performance car magazine. We bought these brands because of their heritage, because the quality of their journalism, the traffic they generate. And that's just topped up our funnel. But again, that's free traffic that we can then monetize. So I get very frustrated when you read constantly on CMO WhatsApp groups or on LinkedIn about when's the right time to invest in your brand and sort of like how do you persuade someone to decide to do TV? And for me, it goes back to this physical and virtual signpost piece, is that brand investment is not for everyone. Brand is a supercharge, but brand is also not one size fits all. And in a world where everything is becoming addressable, brand is now addressable. And so this debate of, oh my God, do I go invest in TV? TV should now be seen in the same frame as other digital performance channels. Yes, there's a brand buy within TV where you're buying audience, but ultimately you can be so targeted to that audience now. The challenge TV has got is declining year on year 12%, but TV is making amazing shows, but they're tentpole moments, but there's not enough of them. So the supply, the demand for that is so huge, but the supply is constrained. That's the big challenge TV has. But whenever I talk to other marketeers about brand, for me, I get really annoyed how people just get so focused on it's brand, you can't measure it. You absolutely can. It's just a different way of measuring it, a different way of understanding it. And I think where a lot of marketeers get it wrong, they don't then translate that to their CFO. So they go and talk to their CFO about brand metrics. He's like, can't see it in the P&L, I'm not investing in it. You have to talk to the finance team and your other exec in a way that they can see it in their P&L. That is so important.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. The like language, like I'm just brand building.
Yeah.
And the way we use that as a like, please don't touch me, I'm busy doing my art is such nonsense. Yeah. And it's so toxic for the trade of marketing.
Exactly.
So the way you talk about content is incredibly powerful. And clearly, with the benefit of hindsight, that was the single best decision to lean into content. Like, what a moat, as you described.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, as I'm sure many people will be, and go like, yeah, sure, but how?
Yeah.
How do you even begin to start doing that? And what are the decisions that Carwow got really right that's put it in that position now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you go back 14 years, right? And the importance of organic content. I think now if you look at Google, organic rankings are rapidly disappearing, about 3 scrolls of a phone. So what used to be position 1 organically is now probably position 7 on Google. So I don't want to say the ship has sailed, but I think you've got to think about it in a very different way. And I think probably the way I would think about it now, and this, by the way, it's a threat to all businesses. And Google's a really important partner of ours. So it's an interesting conversation we're having at the moment, where obviously we obviously top up our funnel with marketing, paid marketing. So we work with Google on the paid side, but on the organic side, we are seeing the whole search landscape fundamentally change. So why is that relevant to someone who wants to do content today? Well, I think you need to think about basically creating content that is going to be found by these new search platforms of the future. So I think we're all now on the same page that how consumers are searching now, and also how they're going to search in years to come, is going to be very, very different. I don't think we're on the same page yet as to who wins. I don't think anyone can really say at the moment. I spent this weekend, went down a right rabbit hole on sort of the AIification of search. And obviously you've got, on the one side, you've got Google, and now Google having AI overviews, and sort of also now announcing the last 2 weeks ago at Google I/O launching AI mode and what that means. You've got ChatGPT emerging, obviously, with a very strong search proposition. They're going to monetize. They're going to put shopping ads in it. You've then got Perplexity, a pure AI search engine. So you've got so many, and they're just 3. Like, I could sit here and name X number of LLMs, and that are all wanting to take a piece of this pie. I think you've got to go back to what makes your business unique, right? And therefore, do you have content that is unique? So one of the things we know with the early indications of how search in AI is going to play out is a lot of those trusted signals that have always benefited your search ranking are still going to be really, really important. But your brand, and what makes your brand sort of what your USP is your fundamental. So where these AI search engines won't benefit you is anything that is evergreen, is sort of generic. Sorry, you've lost that opportunity. Anything that is dynamic, data-driven, unique to you, and hugely credible, and underlined by your brand, is the thing that's going to make you stand out. So I would say to people who are thinking about is it too late to get on the content train? No, it's not too late. But I think the future world of content is a combination of journalists and also people who are experts for writing for these AI engines. And I think that's not a skill set that is actually mass market at the moment. And it's really interesting because obviously, if you're a content, I come from this with my journalist hat on. And I've got mates who, in fact, it's really sad. Everyone I went to journalism university with, none of us are in journalism anymore. And journalism's not a dying breed. I mean, brilliant journalism is just so good and so worth investing in. But basically, if you're a writer today, you might be thinking AI is an existential threat to you. I think the important thing is you must think about how do you actually work with AI and how do you use AI as a gateway to your content. So I would say to people thinking about content, what's your USP? What's the thing that's ownable? And what's the thing that's really going to interest people who are searching in your category in a way that's dynamic and data-driven and credible? So one of the areas we're thinking that will play out strongly in our favour is still our video content, right? Our video content is hugely unique. So not only do we film a review of every car that appears in this country, but we also do a huge amount of entertainment content around drag races. And that drives literally millions of views. We were one of only 5 journalists, Matt was one of only 5 journalists invited by Tesla to go and see the Tesla Cybertruck when it was first launched, 18 months ago. And he's the one who threw a shopping trolley at it to see what it would do, and it just bounced off it. Someone else shot a gun at it and the bullet bounced off it. So it's those sorts of experiences that are still going to set us apart. But you've got to go back to what's unique about your business.
Okay, that's very wise. And that makes sense irrespective of your size. If you are a founder at your kitchen table, it's what's unique about your business. What are people going to be searching for?
Yeah, I think so. I think content lets you punch above your weight. I think you do need to create a brand. And sorry, I don't mean go and spend money above the line. You need to build a calling card. And again, that all links to what your USP is, what makes you unique, and how do you stand apart.
Does that mean that a mistake early stage businesses might make is to just not be clear on what they're selling? What do you mean by calling card?
So I mean sort of what their brand stands for.
Okay.
So obviously, even the most early stage businesses will have a small group of consumers, right? And so what is it that's brought the consumer in? And what is it that the consumer's then going to recommend and be your advocate? And sort of, and what, again, in whatever category you're playing in, what makes you unique?
Got it. Very wise and very clear. It's making my brain whir for our content.
Is that a good thing?
Engine. Yes, it is. I think that, it's fast. Like we just produce a lot of content as a business, but not necessarily in a particularly strategic way, and knowing because it's just a resource gap. And I think the thing you haven't said is resource this like it's going to be your unfair advantage.
I don't subscribe to the view of robots are going to take our jobs just yet. But I heard something really interesting the other day. I might get the stats wrong, but effectively 100 years ago, 70-80% of the people in this country either worked on a farm or a factory. Today, I think it's about 2%. Have 78% of the people in this country not got jobs? No. So rather than job replacement, it's job displacement. So there's a lot of jobs that we haven't even thought about today that will exist in the future. I think stacking your business full of writers is not the right thing to do. Equally, stacking your business full of people who are just going to tell ChatGPT to write content for you is not the right thing to do either. Because as I think we've all know already, AI is an enabler, but it's not the answer. So the way I think of AI is it's a bit like broadband and electricity. It's now always going to be there in the background. And it's how as a business, how as an individual, in your personal life, in your business life, you plug into it. And so one of the things I think that every company is undergoing, and we're the same, is you need to drive a cultural mindset shift. And you need to make people think that when they start a task, think model first rather than human first. So why are you now going to spend 3 hours writing that report or pulling all of these different data sources to try and understand some patterns and then ultimately come up with conclusions. Why not ask the model to look at those data sources and then look at what they come up with and then augment it with your own beliefs and your own thoughts? I mean, there's some amazing stuff. We're obviously, like many businesses, on Trustpilot, get a huge amount of reviews. I guess one of the best use cases I've seen, it's so simple, but you pile all of that into an LLM and it tells you the 5 things that detractors hate about your business, the 5 things promoters love about your business, and it tells you where to focus. And I could get my head of research to sit there for 3 days to do that.
No, it's incredible.
It does it in less than 5 minutes. And it's not a shortcut. It's clever. And that's why I say model first. So I think people always go down the dark side of the internet, the dark side of AI, don't they? But it's a massive productivity game. So this is why I don't subscribe to it kills all of our jobs. It definitely challenges some jobs, but I think crucially it makes people work smarter and I think harder as well. And I think if you're a lazy marketeer and you're just and you're not embracing AI, then you've got a massive wake up call. And either internally in your business or in your future career. Because I genuinely think the next 5 years are going to be seismic.
Yeah. And I love that as a principle, that work displacement is what's coming, and that's what we need to get ready for.
Yeah.
My final question, who would you love to hear from? Which CMO or founder shall I invite on this show? We've had some absolutely mad suggestions.
I'm sure his name. Can I just check his name?
Yeah.
Is it Sam Altman, the OpenAI guy?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
Right, Lottie, I am setting you a task here.
Okay. So I will write some very good DMs.
So given everything we've said about AI and the AIification of search and just the impact of AI on our lives. So I read somewhere that ChatGPT have got 500 million users globally already. But, and here's the rub, only 20 million of them are paying for it. So what's the future revenue model and how does that thing keep printing money? The other thing that's really interesting about OpenAI is they've just partnered with Johnny Ive to create a whole load of AI consumer devices. What even does that look like? By the way, they gave Johnny Ive $5 billion to do this partnership. What even does that look like? So the person who can answer those questions is Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI. And
sort of the only question for him is how much do you know and how much are you waiting to watch and see?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. You obviously we've heard the existential, oh my God, the robots could start a war. But how much are the OpenAIs, the Claudes, Googles of this world holding back from us?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to say it will happen. I don't think it will. But it's a really excellent provocation.
Will you challenge me?
And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
All right. Watch this space. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you. That was really enjoyable.
It was really fun.
Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to tune in with us. Please do hit follow wherever you heard this podcast or subscribe, because that's what makes all the difference. So whether that's on Spotify or on YouTube or on TikTok, make sure that you've got your eye in for more of what's to come. And do send me a DM if you'd like to give us some feedback on who we should have on the show next.